White Orchard, the first region to get lost into following the Kaer Morhen introduction. Inevitable nostalgia, as we think of the days when we took our first steps in the open world of The Witcher 3. While Geralt's stay in that region might be short, it nonetheless manages to create a lasting impression, at least for me. And today I'm gonna try my best to articulate and put into words 6 things in particular that make White Orchard so special to me. Make sure to stick around until the end, cause point 6 is gonna blow your mind. I'm just kidding. Alright, let's get into it. Yeah, this is what I look like, and whiteboard, my face. We're doing things different today, and this is probably gonna be something that I'm gonna reuse in other videos as well, but I think it can be interesting to just do something a little bit different, and it's something I was interested in, so I just decided to do it. So let's talk about the number one thing that struck me, or that really I cared about as I was playing the early game portion of The Witcher 3, and that first thing is actually the war. And really we could say, I guess it's depiction. I don't know how to type. I don't know type? I don't know. Depiction. Okay, that's depiction. And also it's, I guess, aftermath. I should probably write bigger, huh? Hey, we're gonna get used to it. Yeah, the war, its depiction in White Orchard, how we witness it with Geralt, and the aftermath of it. Because I think there was a unique opportunity with White Orchard, in the sense that, you know, the state of the world is very interesting, because Nilfgaard obviously just took control of White Orchard, and that's pretty big, right? And I think it should serve a major role in creating the identity of White Orchard, and I think it did. Nilfgaard. While walking through White Orchard for the first time, it's not immediately obvious just how different life under such strict order actually is. We see the burnt houses, people crying, the battlefields, but again, at first glance, we don't immediately notice how the life of the inhabitants has changed. Some of them might not even know themselves. Take Nap, for example. He burns Willis's forge out of frustration. He's also drunk, sure, but I'm not sure he calculated the new reality of his life. The reality of living under the authority of Nilfgaard. As he's brought to Nilfgaardian soldiers, he's executed on the spot, serving as a clear warning to the people around. It seems a bit extreme, heartless, even. They follow a very strict code, and one that's not up for debate.
Harsh as punishment goes.
But deserved.
And then you have the Devil by the Well contract. The story of Claire and Volker and the small community that they wanted to build. Obviously it ended in disaster, showing that the rules and freedom of the North ain't so easy and straightforward as one might think. There is evil everywhere. It makes you think. It makes you wonder. And I love that. But beyond that, we also get to witness how terrible war can be. How destructive it is. How tensions arise, and the inn is a beautiful example of that. People are hurt. They're looking for scapegoats. They're looking to get back to the past that got taken away from them. For others, it's the opposite. They're part of the change. They embrace it. It's just one big bomb ready to blow up at any point, and we get to witness it with Geralt. There's obviously incredible loss that fuels a lot of the hatred.
I'll let that pass. I know grief eats at your heart.
You know shit. They hanged my sister, dragged her out the cloister like a dog.
But also hope and humanity. The quest with Dune is an amazing example of that. As Dune moves from corpse to corpse looking for his brother, he knows that the inevitable will soon be revealed to him, the harsh reality of war. Yet somehow, there's a part of him that refuses to hear the truth, and just believes. Often, that kind of belief remains in you only to hunt and hurt you, but sometimes, things play out in your favor. Almost a miracle. When Hussar, the dog, picks up Bastion's scent, the inevitable will soon be revealed, the death of his brother. And yet, Dune runs with enthusiasm, almost foolishly.
He found him! Hussar's caught his scent! Come on!
And sometimes it pays.
Bastion! Is he... Has this Nilfgaardian captured you?
What follows is a very complex situation, obviously, given how Bastion survived, helped by a Nilfgaardian. But for a moment, in the middle of a battle, they were not motivated by the North against the South anymore. Just life against death. Moving on to yet another situation, I want to look at the packs of wild dogs. How armies kill and destroy, and yet most dogs just get kicked at most.
These dogs been a problem for a while now.
Since the war started. Soldier on the march, he'll stop to rape a woman, strangle her, kill her man for a chuckle, even butcher a cow. But a dog, a kick in passing, no more.
Surviving in a messed up manner with no owner to guide them, they form packs and become highly aggressive and dangerous for humans. It's probably fair to say that their behavior only mirrors traits that they learned from the ones that they are now hunting. I guess what I'm trying to show here is that essentially a lot of the topics are related to war, as it should have been given the unique opportunity that White Orchard's political state offered. I truly think that they managed to create something special, and I loved exploring the various situations. Alright, number 2, very simple, but I just had to mention it. Number 2 is everything related to art. I'd say, you know, the graphics, the music, and anything related to like the atmosphere and the ambience. And really, for the most part, almost for the entirety of The Witcher 3, I say almost, but I think it's literally all of it. The art, in my opinion, at least for me, is something that I care about, that resonates with me, and that actually has a huge impact on my experience. White Orchard is beautiful. It's sunny, it's green, there are some beautiful beaches. Yeah, it's just very pretty. And yet the theme or the soundtrack is haunting. It's oppressive. It's also almost mourning at times. It reflects the situation so well. Similar to Blood and Wine, it doesn't matter how beautiful the stuff on your screen looks, they still manage to set the correct atmosphere that gets you in the mood and sets the stage for emotions that are fitting of the situations we are witnessing. It's obviously a fairly small region to explore, but it has enough distinctions to set it apart from the rest of the game in my opinion. Alright, okay, number 3 we have, I guess, I should write it like this, the darkness. Right, White Orchard is pretty damn dark. I think it's dark in its actual, I guess, storytelling. I don't know. I can't write. Excuse me. And also in its, I think, choices. The choices are very dark, and it's like an introduction, obviously, and it could have been like a, I guess, a slow start, right? It's not a slow start. It's dark, it's grim, and you already can feel the impact of your decisions, and yeah, let's talk about it. While I did already cover the topic of war, and obviously it's a rather dark topic, darkness is not limited to that area of the game. Near enough, every quest has some kind of dark spin to it at some point. Remember Claire and Volker, who I did mention earlier in the video? Well, I said that the community that they were trying to build ended in disaster, but it's more than that. They were not only killed. Yes, Volker got fatally wounded by a knife, but Claire instead had a surprisingly grim fate. She got hanged. It's not only controlling people or shutting them down, it's just making them suffer. It's straight up dark and evil, and the game doesn't hide it. Instead, it's front and center. For a moment, the situation doesn't even matter anymore. It's just the pain and the sudden realization of the nature of this world and how much suffering there is. I could take the example of Nap again, not saying that it's not deserved, but it just shows how our own choices themselves can be the instigator of such darkness. Also, we could look at the example of the incredibly undeserved violence that Elsa, the innkeeper, has to go through. Darkness, injustice, it lurks in every corner. It's a constant reality of this world, and White Orchard is certainly no different. Number 4, we have something that I personally care about a lot, and it's the characters' realism. There's something that strikes me every time I play The Witcher 3. I feel like the character's psychology and, I don't know, everything is like written in a way that's believable. It's like you have realistic events plus realistic psychology, and it equals like just something that's deep and relatable. That's really how I would describe it. And it's something that just, it strikes me the second you step into the game, the second you just start playing, this equation here just, it's all over the place. We can easily tell that the psychology of the characters is something that CD Projekt Red cares about deeply. Beyond that though, they also care about it being realistic and consistent, which is probably the hardest part to achieve. I think that for me, that's what most often makes writing in a video game great, and it's something that's done very well in Witcher 3 for the most part. It leads to everything feeling real and believable. For example, Mislav, the hunter. He doesn't run around just seeking attention and telling the story of his past to everyone he encounters. That would feel pretty shallow in my opinion. No, instead, at first it seems like he doesn't really want to open up about his past. Still, he opens the door slightly by saying that he's a freak. Admittedly though, it might simply have been out of frustration, but what ensues is particularly interesting.
I'm a freak. Sorry. I'd rather not talk about it.
I'm a freak too.
Aye, but of another kind. Lord's son, Florian, and I, we loved each other. Dieter walked in on us in the stables. They drove me away. Florian hanged himself. Lord started drinking, and the estate fell into ruin. That's the long and short of it.
I'm sorry.
Ancient history now.
Geralt's response beautifully softens Mislav's resistance, and it shows to him that it might be a good idea to open up and let out some of what's been eating him from the inside. Simply talking about it might help. Geralt is open, he's listening, and he's not there to judge. It's a rather short interaction, but somehow they manage to explore some complex aspects of psychology, and in my opinion execute on them in a flawless manner that's extremely believable and satisfying. It creates what feels like a true connection between the characters, and almost inevitably the player is invested or at least feeling stronger emotions. Another example is the conversation between Captain Peter Sar and Geralt right after the captain has ordered the peasant to be whipped 15 times for the delivery of defective goods, which is basically rotten grain. It's done in a beautiful way in my opinion. You can feel that the captain is not someone who inherently wants violence. He doesn't get any pleasurable emotions by having to punish the peasant, and yet he has to. The codex is clear, simple, and he abides by it. Still, his first reaction is anger. It's anger towards the peasant. The peasant's actions are the cause of all the clashing emotions within him. When he speaks with Geralt, his first reaction is to try to rationalize what he just did. Not only to explain why he did what he just did to Geralt, but also to try to convince himself in the process that he acted right. He quickly places the blame on the peasant, convincing himself that what he did is warranted.
Damn it, you never learn. Military Codex, Article 2, Section 3. For the delivery of defective goods, 15 lashes with a knout. Make it so. What?
Guess you've dropped your good uncle act.
It was no act. I extended a hand to these people. They spat on it.
He tries to soothe himself, in a way. And the dialogue here mimics the conflicting emotions and real human complexity in a way that is, in my opinion, just impressive and palpable. I could take many more examples, but for the sake of keeping this video concise, let's move on to the next point. Alright, number 5 is... yes, that's a decent way to put it, but just... it's the attention to details. You really get to feel that the world is a living and evolving sort of place. Countless times in White Orchard, I thought about something and I was like, is it going to actually be the case? Like maybe I heard something somewhere and I was like, let me go actually try to see if it's true. Or I wonder if I can now have that dialogue with the person. And most of the time, if not all of the time, the answer is yes. And it just feels like a, I don't know, interconnected part of the game, and I think it's like that pretty much for the entirety, right? But it's so fun to witness that, and it's like all connected, and it just flows very well. Dune and Bastion were both at risk of being required to fight for Temeria against the Nilfgaardian forces, as shown with Bastion, of course. Now, why wasn't Dune fighting as well, one might ask? Well, he decided to injure himself on purpose to avoid participating. He even says that he told his brother that he should have done the same, but obviously he refused. Dune then shares the nature of his injury. He cut some of his fingers, and I know it's simple, but the fact that it's actually visible on his character model is a great detail that simply might have been overlooked by some other studios. There's actually also another very similar example at the Nilfgaardian camp, where we can witness the discussion between a doctor and his injured patient, and the doctor says that the patient's leg will have to be amputated, and once again we can clearly see the injury on his character model. Another example of attention to details that I wanted to share in this video happens towards the end of the Devil by the Well contract, when Geralt asks Odalin, the contract giver, if he knew Claire and Volker.
Claire. Volker. Names ring a bell?
I don't know him. Though I did hear our herbalist Tamira mention a Claire once. Same one, maybe?
Your reward, Master Witcher.
Following his answer, I knew that I had to pay Tamira a visit once again in case that there would be additional dialogue now available. I thought it could be interesting to hear what she had to say about them, so yeah, I just had to go. And I'll be honest, I fully expected that it would be a waste of time and that no new dialogue would be available. Well, turns out there is.
Yes?
Listen, ever heard of a woman named Claire? Lived around here?
Heard of her? A mild way to put it.
Once again, it's not like any of these examples are a big deal on their own, but it's just nice to find such details so often throughout the game. Number 6, a bit of a simple one. We got everybody's favorite, dopamine. Everything is like, I don't know, I guess I'm just gonna make like a, let's say I go from X to X, okay? I go from point A to point B. And maybe it feels like a lengthy road that I need to go through, or like something that's going to take a while, right? But somehow White Orchard, it's a pretty small location, but I think it's something that is true for almost the entirety of the game once again. Really, White Orchard is like very much so similar to the rest of the game, and I think a lot of the strengths that I'm pointing out in this video can also apply to the rest of the game, but it's just, you know, these are the main things that just struck me as I was playing in White Orchard. But you go from point A, you go towards point B, and in the middle, like, it's all just spaced out so beautifully. You'll come across something there, and then you go to point C. You know, the letters are like maybe more meaningful content, like quest and side quest, and then it's like everything just feels like so beautifully spaced out. It's never boring. You got something interesting to do. Maybe it's a side quest. Maybe it's a nest, a monster nest. Maybe it's just loot or monsters, or, you know, I don't know. It's all just spaced out beautifully, and it's made very obvious, I feel like, in White Orchard. Admittedly, point number 6 was pretty quick to cover, but I don't really have any specific examples to give or anything else to add, except perhaps the fact that Witcher 3's open world, and obviously yes, that includes White Orchard, is probably my favorite open world in any game. Sure, at times the objectives might be shallow, like monster nests and stuff like that, but there are enough cool details usually, and enough meaningful content to be discovered to make it feel pretty damn great overall. And yeah, that's gonna conclude today's video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and feel free to let me know in the comments how you personally feel about White Orchard. Do you like it as much as I do? And also consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video if you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll be back soon with a new video. Bye bye.